Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to Grow English Mastery. I'm Scarlett, and I'm so happy you've joined me today. How are you feeling? Ready to learn some English? Great! On this channel, we love to explore interesting topics that not only help you improve your English, but also give you something valuable to think about. We often talk about inspiring people who make a difference in the world. And today, we have a truly fascinating person to discuss. Have you ever heard of Jacinda Ardern? Maybe you've seen her in the news, or perhaps her name is new to you. Well, today, we're going to learn all about her. She's a leader from New Zealand, known for her compassionate style and her strong leadership during difficult times. What qualities do you admire in a leader? Think about that for a moment. Is it strength, kindness, honesty? Today, we'll see many admirable qualities in action. So, what are our goals for today's lesson? First, we're going to learn about the life and career of Jacinda Ardern. We'll find out where she came from and how she became a world leader. Second, we'll take a closer look at her unique leadership style. We'll focus on two key aspects: her compassion, that's her ability to understand and care about others, and her skill in managing crises, which are really difficult situations. Third, and very importantly for us, we will learn some new English vocabulary. These will be words related to leadership, politics, and society. And of course, we'll see how to use them. Fourth, this lesson is a great opportunity for you to practice your listening and comprehension skills. And finally, I hope you'll be inspired by Jacinda Ardern's story, just as I am. Now, why is it important to learn about someone like Jacinda Ardern? Well, understanding different leaders helps us understand the world a little better. It shows us different ways to lead and different ways to solve problems. Also, for English learners, topics like politics and current events can sometimes feel challenging. There can be a lot of new words or complex ideas. But don't worry. We're going to break it down and make it easy to understand. We'll tackle any challenges together. Ready to begin our journey into the life of Jacinda Ardern? Let's go. Let's start at the beginning. Jacinda Kate Laurel Ardern was born on July 26, 1983. So if you're doing the math, that makes her quite a young leader. When she came to international attention, she was born in a town called Hamilton, in New Zealand. New Zealand, as you might know, is a beautiful island country in the Pacific Ocean, famous for its stunning nature and, of course, the kiwi bird. Even when she was young, Jacinda was interested in making things fair for people. This interest is often called a passion for social justice. Social justice means that everyone in society should have equal rights and opportunities. It's about fairness for all. Can you say that with me? Social justice. Good. This interest in fairness and helping others guided her choices in education. She studied at the University of Waikato, where she earned a degree in communication studies, specializing in politics and public relations. So, from early on, she was learning how to communicate effectively and understanding how governments work. After university, Jacinda didn't jump straight into being a top leader. Like most people, She started by gaining experience. She worked in the office of Helen Clark, who was the Prime Minister of New Zealand at that time. Imagine learning about leadership from someone at the very top. She also spent some time working in the United Kingdom for Tony Blair, who was the British Prime Minister. These experiences gave her a valuable insight into how politics works at a high level. In 2008, Jacinda Ardern was elected as a Member of Parliament for the Labour Party in New Zealand. A Member of Parliament, often shortened to MP, is someone who is chosen by the people to represent them in the government. The word election is key here. It's the process where people vote to choose their leaders. So she was starting her journey as an elected official, a person chosen by the people. She was known for being hardworking and passionate about issues like child poverty and inequality. These are things that tie back to her early interest in social justice. She believed that all children should have a good start in life and that society should be fairer for everyone. So, even in her early career, we can see the themes that would define her leadership later on: a strong sense of fairness, a desire to help people, and a good understanding of communication and politics. So, Jacinda Ardern was a Member of Parliament. But how did she become the leader of her country? Let's talk about her journey to becoming Prime Minister. The Prime Minister is the head of the government in many countries, including New Zealand. It's a very important and demanding job. Jacinda Ardern's rise within the Labour Party was quite remarkable. For several years, she served as an MP, working on various issues and building her reputation. Then, in August 2017, something significant happened. The leader of the Labour Party stepped down, and Jacinda Ardern was elected as the new leader. This was just 7 weeks before a general election. Suddenly, she was leading her party's campaign. A campaign is the period before an election when political parties try to persuade people to vote for them. They share their ideas, their policies, which are their plans for the country, and they try to connect with voters. Jacinda Ardern's leadership brought a new energy to the Labour Party. Many people were drawn to her positive message and her focus on issues like housing, healthcare, and education. This period was sometimes called Jacinda Mania because of the excitement she generated. The election in September 2017 was very close. No single party won enough votes to govern alone. So, the Labour Party had to form a coalition government with other parties. And on October 26, 2017, Jacinda Ardern was sworn in as the 40th Prime Minister of New Zealand. At 37 years old, she became one of the youngest female leaders in the world. Think about that for a moment. What does a Prime Minister do? It's a big responsibility, isn't it? They lead the government, make important decisions for the country, represent their nation on the world stage, and guide the country through good times and bad. As Prime Minister, some of her initial focus areas included tackling child poverty, addressing climate change, and improving housing affordability. These were promises she made during her campaign, and now she had the chance to put those policies into action. When we talk about these events, her becoming leader, the election, becoming Prime Minister, we often use the simple past tense in English. For example, she became leader of the Labour Party in 2017. Or, she campaigned on issues like child poverty. The simple past tense is used for completed actions in the past. We'll see this tense a lot when discussing historical events or someone's biography. Her journey to becoming Prime Minister was relatively quick once she became party leader, showing that people were ready for her style of leadership. Now, let's talk about what made Jacinda Ardern's leadership style stand out. One word you'll hear a lot when people talk about her is compassion. What is compassion? Compassion means feeling concern for others who are suffering and wanting to help them. It's similar to empathy, which is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. Jacinda Ardern is often described as a compassionate leader. But what does compassionate leadership look like in practice? It's not just about being nice. It's about connecting with people on a human level, showing that you understand their struggles, and taking action to support their well-being. Well-being refers to a state of being comfortable, healthy, or happy. Jacinda Ardern often emphasized kindness and togetherness. She spoke about creating a government that was empathetic and strong. This combination is interesting, not just one or the other, but both. We saw her compassion in the way she approached social issues. For example, she often spoke about the importance of mental health and took steps to improve mental health services in New Zealand. This showed an understanding that a healthy society needs more than just economic success. It needs people to feel supported and cared for. She also focused on building a strong sense of community. A community is a group of people living in the same place or having a particular characteristic in common. She tried to bring people together, even when they had different opinions. One famous example of her approach was when she took her baby daughter, Neve, to the United Nations General Assembly. This was a powerful symbol. It showed that being a mother and a world leader were not mutually exclusive. It also highlighted the importance of family and work-life balance, issues that resonate with many people around the world. Her communication style was also a key part of her compassionate leadership. She often spoke directly and honestly with the public, explaining complex issues in a clear and understandable way. During difficult times, this ability to connect and reassure people was incredibly important. Try to make a sentence with the word compassion. For example, you could say, "A good leader shows compassion for their people," or, "Her compassion was evident in her actions." Go on, give it a try in your head or say it out loud. Practicing helps the new words stick. This focus on empathy and well-being wasn't just a side note to her leadership, it was central to it. It shaped her policies and her responses to major events, which we'll talk about next. A true test of any leader is how they handle a crisis. A crisis is a time of intense difficulty, trouble, or danger. Unfortunately, during her time as Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern faced several major crises, and her responses to these events are a big part of what she is known for internationally. Let's look at some of these. Perhaps the most well-known is the Christchurch mosque shootings on March 15, 2019. This was a horrific terrorist attack on two mosques in the city of Christchurch, where 51 people were killed and many others were injured. It was a day of immense tragedy and shock for New Zealand, a country known for its peace and safety. Jacinda Ardern's response was immediate and widely praised. Within hours, she flew to Christchurch. She met with the families of the victims and members of the Muslim community. Importantly, she wore a hijab, a headscarf worn by many Muslim women, as a sign of respect and solidarity. This simple act was seen as incredibly powerful and empathetic. Her words at this time were also very significant. She said of the victims, "They are us." This phrase emphasized unity and inclusion, making it clear that the Muslim community was an integral part of New Zealand. She refused to speak the name of the attacker, saying she did not want to give him notoriety. Instead, she focused on the victims and the need for healing. But her response wasn't just about words and gestures. She also took decisive action. Just days after the attack, her government announced reforms to New Zealand's gun laws, banning most semi-automatic weapons. This swift action to change laws in response to the tragedy showed strong leadership. This event, as terrible as it was, highlighted her ability to lead with both compassion and strength. She showed empathy for the victims, a clear moral stance against hatred, and the decisiveness to make significant policy changes. Another crisis she handled was the White Island eruption in December 2019. White Island, or Wakari, is an active volcano. When it erupted, there were tourists on the island. Tragically, 22 people lost their lives. Again, Ardern was quick to visit the affected communities, offer support, and lead the country through a period of grief. She focused on supporting the first responders and the families of those affected. And then, of course, came the COVID-19 pandemic, which affected the entire world starting in early 2020. This was a crisis on a global scale. New Zealand, under Ardern's leadership, adopted a strategy of elimination, aiming to keep the virus out of the country as much as possible. This involved strict border closures and lockdowns, periods when people were required to stay at home. Her communication during the pandemic was also a key feature. She held regular press conferences, often alongside health officials, to explain the situation and the government's actions. She used simple, clear language. She often did Facebook Live sessions, speaking informally and answering people's questions. This made her seem accessible and relatable. Phrases like "be kind" became a common refrain, encouraging people to support each other during the difficult lockdown periods. When we talk about these events, we often use connecting words to show cause and effect. For example, because of the Christchurch attacks, New Zealand changed its gun laws. Or, the COVID-19 pandemic was a global crisis. As a result, many countries went into lockdown. Using words like because of, as a result, so, and therefore helps to explain the connections between events. These crises were incredibly challenging. What was one major crisis Jacinda Ardern handled that we just talked about? Pause for thought. Yes, the Christchurch attacks, the White Island eruption, or the COVID-19 pandemic. Each one required a different response, but her approach often combined empathy with clear action. We've encountered some important vocabulary while talking about Jacinda Ardern. Let's take a few minutes to dive a little deeper into some of these words and also look at a useful grammar point. First, let's recap some key adjectives we've used to describe her and her leadership. Compassionate. We said this means feeling and showing sympathy and concern for others. For example, her compassionate response to the victims was praised. Empathetic. Similar to compassionate, meaning able to understand and share the feelings of others. Good leaders are often empathetic. Resilient. This means able to withstand or recover quickly from difficult conditions. Leaders need to be resilient. Despite the challenges, she remained resilient. Decisive. This means able to make decisions quickly and effectively. She took decisive action to change the gun laws. Transparent. This means open and honest, not secretive. In government, transparency is about sharing information with the public. Her communication style was transparent. Now, some nouns related to government and leadership. Governance. This refers to the way a country or organization is controlled and managed. Good governance is essential for a country's success. Policy making. This is the process of creating laws and plans of action for a government. Policy making requires careful consideration. Diplomacy. This is the skill of managing international relations, typically by a country's representatives, abroad. She engaged in diplomacy to strengthen ties with other nations. And some terms related to difficult situations. Crisis management. This is the process by which an organization deals with a disruptive and unexpected event that threatens to harm the organization or its stakeholders. Her crisis management skills were tested many times. Response efforts. These are the actions taken to deal with a crisis or emergency. The response efforts after the earthquake were coordinated. Sometimes words belong to families. For example, we have the noun compassion. The adjective form is compassionate. The adverb would be compassionately. She spoke compassionately to the families. Understanding word families can really expand your vocabulary. For example, empathy, noun. Empathetic, adjective. Empathetically, adverb. Decision, noun. Decisive, adjective. Decisively, adverb. Now, for a quick grammar focus. Reported speech. Reported speech, also called indirect speech, is when we tell someone what another person said, but we don't use their exact words. This is very useful when talking about leaders, news reports, or historical events. For example, direct speech. Jacinda Ardern said, "We must be a nation that is kind." Reported speech. Jacinda Ardern said that they had to be a nation that was kind. Notice a few changes. We often use that, though it can sometimes be omitted. Pronouns might change, e.g., we becomes they if we are not part of the we she meant. The verb tense often shifts back. For example, is, present simple, in direct speech might become was, past simple, in reported speech if the reporting verb said is in the past. Must can stay must or change. To had to. Let's try another one. Direct speech. A journalist asked, "What is your priority?" Reported speech. A journalist asked what her priority was. Here, the question word what stays, but the word order changes from question form, is your priority, to statement form, her priority was, and the tense shifts. Learning to use reported. Speech will help you describe what people like Jacinda Ardern said and did. Let's try a quick interactive exercise. I'll give you a short sentence in direct speech. Try to change it to reported speech. Direct speech, she said. This is a challenge. Reported speech, she said that it was a challenge. Or, she said it was a challenge. How did you do? Don't worry if it's tricky, it takes practice. Here's a quick fill-in-the-blanks exercise with some of our new vocabulary. I'll say the sentence with a blank, pause, and then give you the word. A good leader shows thought that's towards their people. Pause, compassion. After the disaster, the government's pregee was swift. Pause, response. It's important for governments to be eagerly with their citizens. Pause, transparent. She was praised for her eagerly handling of the crisis. Pause, decisive. Keep practicing these words and try to notice reported speech when you read or listen to English. So we've learned a lot about Jacinda Ardern and some new English. Now, how can you practice and use what you've learned today? Let's talk about some techniques for your listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills. First, listening. We've talked about Jacinda Ardern's clear communication. Why not try to listen to some of her speeches or interviews? You can search on YouTube for Jacinda Ardern speeches or Jacinda Ardern interviews. My tip for B1 learners: look for videos that have good quality audio and, if possible, English. Subtitles. When you listen, don't worry if you don't understand every single word. That's completely normal. Try to listen for the main ideas. What is she talking about? What is her general message? You can also listen for some of the vocabulary words we learned today, like compassion, crisis, or community. Hearing them in context will help you remember them. Start with short clips, maybe just 2 and 3 minutes long. Listen once to get the general idea. Then, listen again, perhaps with subtitles, to understand more details. Second, speaking. Speaking is all about practice. One simple thing you can do is to try and summarize what you've learned about Jacinda Ardern today in your own words. You could tell a friend, a family member, or even just talk to yourself. Try to use some of the new vocabulary. For example, today I learned about Jacinda Ardern. She was a compassionate leader from New Zealand who was good at crisis management. You can also practice expressing your opinion. What do you think about her leadership style? What qualities do you admire? Another idea is a little role play. Imagine you are explaining who Jacinda Ardern is to someone who has never heard of her. How would you describe her? Let's try a quick speaking practice right now. I'll say a sentence, and I want you to repeat it after me, trying to match the intonation. Ready? Jacinda Ardern showed great leadership. Pause for repetition. Her speeches were often empathetic. Pause for repetition. She managed several crises effectively. Pause for repetition. Good job. Repeating sentences helps with pronunciation and fluency. Third, reading. Reading is a fantastic way to build your vocabulary and understanding. You could look for simple news articles about Jacinda Ardern or about New Zealand. Websites like BBC News or Reuters often have articles, but try to find ones that are not too long or complex. Some news sites even have sections for English learners. You read? Look for the vocabulary words we discussed today. See how they are used in different sentences. You could also read about other world leaders and compare their styles to Jacinda Ardern's. Fourth, writing. Writing helps you to organize your thoughts and practice your grammar and vocabulary. Here are a couple of ideas. Write a short paragraph, maybe 50-70 words, about what you find most inspiring about Jacinda Ardern. Or, write a few sentences about what qualities you think a good leader should have, using some of the vocabulary from today's lesson. For example, I think a good leader should be compassionate and decisive. They need to communicate clearly with people. Don't worry about making it perfect. The most important thing is to practice putting your thoughts into English words. So, try to do at least one of these activities this week. A little bit of practice every day can make a big difference. Stories can be powerful. They help us connect with ideas and people on an emotional level. When we think about Jacinda Ardern, one period that truly highlights her character and leadership approach is her response to the Christchurch mosque shootings in March 2019. Imagine the shock and horror that swept across New Zealand, a country that prides itself on being peaceful and welcoming. In such a moment, people look to their leaders for guidance, for reassurance, and for action. Jacinda Ardern's response was remarkable for its combination of deep empathy and swift, decisive action. Within hours, she was in Christchurch. She didn't just send a message. She went there to be with the community. The images of her hugging members of the Muslim community, wearing a headscarf as a sign of respect, resonated globally. It wasn't a political gesture. It felt deeply human. She said, "They are us." Such simple words, but so powerful. In that moment of potential division and fear, she chose words of unity and inclusion. She made it clear that an attack on one part of the New Zealand community was an attack on all of New Zealand. Then came the action. It wasn't just about comforting words. She promised that gun laws would change, and her government delivered on that promise with incredible speed, banning most semi-automatic weapons within days. This showed that her compassion was backed by a commitment to making real changes to protect people. Her story here, and her handling of this immense tragedy, shows us that leadership is not just about having power or making big speeches. It's about how you connect with people, how you care for them, especially in their darkest moments. It's about empathy, clear communication, and the courage to act according to your values. How can we apply this in our own lives? Most of us are not prime ministers, but we all face challenges. We all interact with people who might be going through difficult times. We can choose to act with empathy, to listen, to offer support. We can try to communicate clearly and kindly, even when things are tough. We can stand up for what we believe is right. Jacinda Ardern's example during this crisis reminds us that small acts of kindness and strong moral principles can make a big difference, whether you are leading a country or just living your daily life. Her story shows us that compassionate leadership is strong leadership. It can bring people together and inspire hope even in the face of tragedy. It's a powerful lesson for all of us. Learning a new language or learning about complex topics, like leadership, can sometimes feel challenging, but it's so important to keep a positive attitude. Learning about inspiring people like Jacinda Ardern can be very motivating, can't it? It shows us what's possible. I want to encourage you today. Remember that it's okay to make mistakes when you're learning English. Everyone does. Mistakes are part of the learning process. The important thing is to keep trying, to not give up. Don't be afraid to speak, even if you think your grammar isn't perfect or you can't find the exact right word. The more you try, the better you'll become. Be patient with yourself. Learning takes time. Every new word you learn, every sentence you understand, every time you successfully communicate an idea in English, that is progress. Celebrate your small victories. Believe in your ability to improve. You are capable. You are learning. You can do this. Confidence grows with practice, so practice a little every day. Find topics you enjoy, like today's lesson, and use them as a way to engage with English. Think about Jacinda Ardern. She faced huge challenges. She probably had moments of doubt, but she persevered. She focused on her goals and her values. We can all learn from that spirit of perseverance. So, keep learning, keep practicing, and most importantly, keep believing in yourself. Your English journey is unique, and you are making progress every step of the way. We here at Grow English Mastery are cheering you on. If you'd like to learn more about Jacinda Ardern or practice your English with similar topics, there are some resources you might find helpful. First, as I mentioned earlier, YouTube can be a great resource. You can search for Jacinda Ardern speeches or Jacinda Ardern interviews. When you watch, look for options with clear audio and English subtitles. This can really help with comprehension. Pay attention to her communication style, her clarity, her empathy. For reading, reputable international news websites often have archives. You could try searching her name on sites like BBC News, The Guardian, or Reuters. Look for articles that summarize events or profile her leadership. Sometimes these sites have different versions of articles, including simpler ones, or you can use online tools to help you understand difficult words. Just be mindful to choose articles that are at a comfortable reading level for you, so you don't get discouraged. If you are interested in New Zealand more generally, the official New Zealand tourism website or government websites can provide information in clear English about the country, its culture, and its people. There are also many apps and websites dedicated to learning English through news and current events. Some of these provide simplified articles with vocabulary explanations, which can be perfect for B1 learners. Remember, the goal is to find resources that are interesting to you and appropriate for your level. Learning should be enjoyable. Don't be afraid to explore, and if one resource is too difficult, try another. The internet is full of wonderful materials for English learners. Well, that brings us to the end of our lesson today. We've spent some time learning about Jacinda Ardern, a truly remarkable leader from New Zealand. Let's quickly recap the main points. We learned about her early life and her journey into politics, becoming Prime Minister at a young age. We discussed her leadership style, emphasizing her compassion, her empathy, and her focus on well-being and community. We looked at how she managed major crises, like the Christchurch mosque shootings, the White Island eruption, and the COVID-19 pandemic, often with a combination of strong, decisive action and clear, transparent communication. And of course, we learned some important vocabulary related to these topics, like social justice, policy, unity, and resilience. We also touched on reported speech. I really hope you found Jacinda Ardern's story as inspiring as I do. And more importantly, I hope you learned some useful English today and feel more confident in understanding and discussing such topics. Her leadership provides many lessons, not just in politics, but in how we can all strive to communicate with kindness and act with integrity. Now, it's your turn to interact. I have a question for you. What did you find most interesting or inspiring about Jacinda Ardern? Or, perhaps, what new English word from today's lesson will you try to use this week? Please let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I love reading your comments and seeing what you've learned. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up. That little like button really helps our channel. And if you know other people who are learning English and might find this interesting, please share it with them. And of course, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to Grow English Mastery and click the notification bell. That way, you won't miss out on our future lessons. We have many more exciting topics and useful English lessons planned for you. Thank you so much for watching and for spending your valuable time with me today. Keep practicing your English, stay curious, and be kind. I'm Scarlett, and I'll see you in the next video here on Grow English Mastery. Bye for now.